Hey hackers, Blue Cosmodium from CCS here, and welcome to Module 8 for the Introduction to Python 3 course. In this module, we'll be talking about how to edit files because Python has a built-in feature for editing files. We can edit text files, PDF files, documents, etc. But in this module, we're only going to focus on text files because they're the easiest to understand, the easiest to grasp, and this is a new topic, so we're going to go ahead and dive into that. So let's head over to my screen, and first thing you want to do is open up your IDE or text editor or whatever you're using. We're going to save this blank document to our course folder, and in here we're going to make a new folder. We're going to call this Module 8, and go ahead and open Module 8, and we're going to call this files.py, the files with an S, because I'll explain why in a second. So next thing you want to do is open up, let me open up a new file, and we're going to save this as file.txt, and in idle we're just going to do hello world, exclamation point. So this is our file.txt file that we are writing to, all right? Our file.txt file, not our files.py, our file.txt. And we're going to write the statement hello world into our file, all right? So we can close that. And so now if I head over here to our course home, we should have two files, a files.py and a file.txt. I'm making sure you guys understand this so you guys don't make any mistakes or anything. So this is our text file, and it has the word, or it has the phrase hello world in there. Our files.py file is going to be our overview for the course, and then we're going to learn how to read and write to this file.txt. So the first thing we need to know is how can we actually get ready to edit files and things like that, or read files and etc. So in Python, before we can even read or edit them, we need to open them, just kind of like how we open a file before we can read or edit. So in order to do this, the open function opens a file, and it takes a file name as an argument. All right, so we can do file equals open, and then we can put in our file.txt because that's the name of our file, and that's it. So I'm gonna copy this line because we're gonna need it later. So this function right here will take in this argument of the text file, and we'll assign it to this file variable. So now that we have the file opened, we can actually start we have the file opened and assigned it to this file variable. We can actually start to do things with this file. So when it comes to working with files or opening files, there are three modes we can open a file in, okay? So we'll call it, say, file modes. So the first mode is read mode. And the read mode is basically, it lets Python read files or read file contents. And the file modes are made as, file modes are the second argument for the open function. So the open function takes two arguments, the file name and then the file mode. So the read mode is indicated by the letter R, and will let us read Python's file contents. So we can open it in read mode, and now we have the file opened in read mode, right? And this is enabled by default, but it's still good practice to indicate it as read mode so people who are reading your code can understand, or just to avoid any errors or anything like that. The next thing we want to do is, or the next mode we're going to talk about is write mode. So write mode, indicated by the letter W, it lets Python write to a file. So it's the same thing as we've shown here, but we can write to a file. So the next mode we're going to talk about is append mode. Append mode. Now, if you remember our module when we covered lists and other data structures, you may remember that append, or the append method, added a value to the end of a list. So the append mode will allow us to write to a file. Will allow us to write to the end of a file, right? Append mode, write to the end of a file. Because when you write in write mode, it will rewrite the contents of the file when you're writing in write mode, all right? But when you're writing in append mode, it will add to the end of the file, so all the existing contents in the file will still be there. All right, so in order to write in append mode, we just put in the A to represent the append mode. All right, now that we open the file and we hypothetically do whatever we want to the file, we need to close the file. So in order to close the file, we have a close method, and this will closes the file. And it kind of like saves your progress, or saves edits, or saves changes, really. It saves any changes you've made to the file, etc. So that's the close method. So in you would just do file.close to close the method, right? So now it comes to reading files, right? So let's save this and Control-Shift-S to open up our, to save as to a new file. So let's make a read files.py. All right, in this read files.py, we can close all these other contents. Let's actually read to a file, right? So we'll do file is, or I'll do file is that equal to open file.txt. And we'll open it in read mode. Even though it's read mode by default, it's still good practice to label it as read mode. So we're going to say reading files. So now that we have the file opened, we can use the read method, and this will return the file contents. So if we do, let's say read file equals the file that read, and then we can file.close. All right, I'm gonna make this line a part of the section. So we're right here, you can see the file.read, and this read method will return the file contents. So now we can actually print the read file, and if we run this, not defined, file.close. So when we run this, it says hello world, because that's what it said in our file.txt. It read the file and it outputted hello world. Now we can also, so numbers can be used as an argument to print a number of characters. So if we copy this and paste this, then we can simply take, let's say the number 8, and if we run this, it will print the first 8 characters. A certain number of characters. There you go. So Python also has a method that allows you to read the lines of a file. So we can do read lines method. And this read lines method will reads the lines of a file. Now this is good for iteration. So it's good for iterating through each line rather than each character. So if you're searching for a certain word in a file, you would probably use the read lines. And if you're searching for like a certain character, or if you want to iterate through a file, you probably want to use the read lines because it'll make it go quicker and it will search for certain words within the lines of the file. So we can just print the same thing out, but we can do file.read lines. I don't know why I backspaced that. That was pretty pointless. We can just print it just so that way you guys can get an idea of what it looks like. So when you do the read lines, it makes a list of each line basically. So which is why it's good for iteration, because you're iterating through like a list rather than the file. So hello world, and it'll mark a new line. My name is Cosmo, mark a new line, etc., etc., etc. So, lines to a file adds lines to a list. All right, so let's make a program, right? So let's control save this, control F, and let's call this file reader.py. So reads contents of an inputted file. And of course we'll have to make this comment. There you go. And then so we can say user input file, and we can do file equals input, enter the name of the file you want to read, and we'll also need our banner, of course, so we can do banner, and we can just print file reader. And by the way, this isn't the practice or anything, so you guys can stay with me because we still need to learn how to write to files and stuff. So user input, so we get the file from the user, okay? Now we can print the read the file content. We'll call this file name. So file name, and then we can just do our file name, and then we can do our file name and open the file name that they input and read mode. Then we will read the file, close it, and then we will output file contents, and then here we can get file contents. So we have a program that can ask the user for the file they wish to read. We know the file is called file.txt, and then it will print the contents for them. In fact, if you want to, you can make this an F string that will print on a new line saying file contents, and then a new line, and then this, and then this. There you go. So we can say file.txt is the file that we want them to read, and there you go. It'll give us the file contents. Hello world, my name is Cosmo, whatever. Something about, so we'll just say writing files. So something about Python is that when you write to a file, I'll do these in the docstring. So when you're writing to a file in Python, writing to a file will overwrite its contents, basically. So, and it will overwrite its contents with the inputted data. So whatever data you try to write to a file, Python will overwrite the file with the data you attach to the the ability to write. And if the file doesn't exist, it will create it. And that's all you really need to know about writing Python files, right? So the write method will allow us to write strings to a file. The string argument, so write strings, and this string will be the argument. Write string data, and this will be the argument to a file. All right, the standard file equals open this, but this time we need to open it in write mode. Then we can't read the file because it's not opened in read mode. So we can do file.write hello world. And once we write this to the file, so now we can actually read the file for output. So we can do read file equals open file.txt in read mode, and we're going to .read it and then print the read file. Where did I use F? File, there you go. So this write method right here takes in the string data and writes it to the file. So you see when we read the file and print its contents, it says hello world because we overwrote these this random stuff here, or we overwrote its original contents. So that's how you can actually write to a file. So we can save this, and then we can make our new file, and we can call this append file.py, and this will cover how we can append to files. So appending to files. As I mentioned before, writing files replaces or overwrites the current existing data within the file. But this doesn't really matter if you're generating a new file or if you're writing to a blank document, because you write the write file, the write mode will be fine because there's nothing to worry about. Okay, so if you want to keep the existing information within the file and just write onto the file, add information to the end of the file, we can use the append mode. So if we want to append to a file, we need to open the file in append mode, right? So file equals open, and then the file.txt, and we can open it up in append mode. Then we can file.write, which put data, and then we can file.close, and that's it. So we can run this. And now, oh yeah, that's right, we have the have it appended. So we'll do read file equals open file.txt .read, and we can print the read file. So hello world, and then we added that towards the end, data and data. And if we run this again, it's going to add data to the end again because we keep appending to the file. So there you go, hello world, and then we have random pieces of data added to the end. The last thing we're going to talk about is the with statement. So let's save this and make our new file, and you can call this with statement.py. And then close all this. So the with statement will basically allow us to ensure that there won't be any errors when writing to files, because it's kind of tedious to open the file and close the file. Plus you're going to have to make sure no exceptions happen or any errors happen and do all this other stuff, right? So we can use a with statement to do this. And it will create a variable only accessible within the with statement scope. So we'll do with open. So we're opening the file using the with statement, and we're opening file.txt, and we're going to open it up in read mode, and then we can print file, or we can print the f string. We can say file contents, and then a \n, and then we can just do a file.read, in these curly braces, and that should be it, right? So we can actually run this, and oh yeah, so in order to actually do stuff with the file, we can use the as operator to assign this context to a variable name. So we can do as f, and f is the default that people usually do, but you can do whatever variable name you want to, and this variable name is only accessible within the scope of the with statement. So if we run this, it'll say file contents row data, and that's it. That's the with statement. So the with statement, it basically allows us to open files. Oh, okay. Open files and ensures that they will be closed, even if an error occurs. So you really notice how we didn't have to like close the file because it was handled with the with statement, right? And this would be the same thing if we were writing to this file. It would be the same thing if we were appending to this file. So we can save this, and so that's it for the actual lesson part. Now we can actually dive into the practice. So for today's practice, we're going to be making an account manager, create an account, sign in, and it's going to be pretty cool. It's probably one of the cooler projects we've done throughout this course so far. If you don't want to do the practice with me, then you can go ahead and try it by yourself to make some sort of account manager. And if you want to follow along with me, then you guys can stay here and follow along with me. So let's actually go ahead and get started. So we're going to make our new file, and we're going to call this account tech manager.py. All right, and we can go ahead and delete all that stuff. Something else we're going to need is a specific file for this project. So we'll make a new text document for this project, and we'll call it accounts, ACCOUNTS dot, oops. All right, so we have an accounts.txt and we have our account manager. Cool. So let's actually start the account manager project. So this, we can just do account manager. And of course it was created by Cosmo. Now we can do the banner and we can just print account manager \n. All right, now we can do a loop, so we can loop code in case of exceptions. So we can do a while true, then we can have our databases, and here we're going to have our accounts database, which will be equal to our accounts.txt file. So in case if you want to change the database, you guys can up here. And we're going to have our red database, and this red database is going to be equal to open the account database, and we're going to do .read lines. Go ahead and get started, I guess. We can do the option menu. And here we can print accounts options. And then a colon, new line. So we're going to tab over and make option 1, which will be create accounts, and in option 2, which will be to sign into your account. So we do sign in, and we want this to be tabbed over as well. And we can close that, and we'll want a new line at the end of here. So we can make an option or an option variable, and this will take in input. So I guess we should do user input option, and this will be equal to our option variable. And in this variable, we're going to get the user's option. So we just do option :::, space : space. And then here we can get the user input for their username, because no matter what option they choose, we need to get their username. So we can do username is equal to input, and then a \n, and then enter username. And then here we can get user input, and this time we can ask for their password. So we can do password equals input, enter password, space : space, and then so we can from here format their account. Right, so this is how we're going to save their account information to our database, right? So we can do account equals an F string, where we'll have their username, and then it'll be separated by 2 equal signs, and then their password. So in the accounts.txt folder, this is how we'll store the usernames and password. It'll be a username, 2 equal signs, and then the password. So here we'll have option 1, and option 1 is basically going to create their account. So if option is equal to 1, We can do some user input. So we can do user input, password confirmation, because we need to confirm their password. So we can do confirm password, and it will be equal to input confirm new password. And now we can actually confirm their password. So confirm password, and we can say if their password is not equal to their confirm password and an equal sign is not in their password, we can print invalid password \n, and then we can do we'll say passwords don't match, and then we'll do a new line and say password can't contain an equal sign, and then we'll have a new line, and then we can and add that parenthesis. So here we can say continue, and we can update the database with the new account. So we can do else with open the account database in append mode as DB for database. Then we can do database.write and then we're going to write an F string, and this is going to be a \n for the new account, and then their account. Now we can print account created. You can now sign in \n, and then finish print statement off, and then we can just do a continue, and there you go. So that's if option is equal to 1, and I guess this should be a string because it's input. Now, what else do we do? Elif option is equal to 2. We can do for user account in the red database if user account dot starts with, and this F string is going to be their username and then 2 equal signs, and we do and user account that ends with, and then we can put an S string in here, and this S string is going to be equals their password colon. Then we can say print access granted, and we can do an else statement. So let me go back here. So if this is true, we'll do this. Else say print password is incorrect. Try again. And then you can do continue. So as the exception, we can do the exception, and this will be else, and this will basically say their input was invalid, right? So print input not recognized, and then we can just tell them to try again, and that's it. We can just have this continue, and then we can just break the code once they finish, or break the loop. So let's run this. Let's create our account. We can enter the username we want to add to the account. We can enter the password we want to add to the account. We'll do 1, 2, 3, and we'll confirm the password, and account created. You can now sign in. So if we do 2 and enter our username, which is Cosmo, and enter our password. Password is incorrect. Try again. Why is the password? Oh, we didn't break. So we can break if we find their account. We should add this on a separate if statement. So we can Control X this, and have this be part of here. And then we can do if this, then we can tab those two over. Otherwise, and what if we cut this out? So let's run this. So we'll make a new account called Bob, and 234 is the password, 234. So if we sign in and we enter our username Bob, and we enter the password 234, access granted. There you go. So it seems like the program works. You guys can play around with it a little bit, but if you want to, we can actually open up the accounts.txt file. See this in Notepad, and if I just open this with Notepad, you guys can see the same exact thing. Bob is 234 and Cosmo is 123. So we finished. That's basically the basics of how we can write content to Python file, or how we can use Python to write content to files. Hopefully this was a little bit more of a cooler and more interesting type of module, but that's going to be it. So I will see you guys in the next one, the next module, which will be exception handling, which is basically handling errors. I mentioned this earlier in the course. So I will see you guys in the next module. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and do the whole YouTube algorithm thing on this video. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, I do suggest heading over to the website so you guys can take the course on my website, and so that it's organized a little bit better. You guys can have access to each of the modules. You guys have access to quizzes, and you guys can also get a certificate once you guys finish the course. It is at the top. All the information is at the top of the webpage over there. So link is in the description if you want to check that out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next module. So stay happy, stay positive, and as always, happy hacking.